Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Allison Drini. I'm joined by my co-host, Tom O'Gorman. Tom, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm sitting in my brother's second floor of his house, surrounded by children's toys. But that's not why I'm good. I'm good because we have a special guest here today. He is a Spec Racer Ford racer, a past SCCA national champion, currently racing at the Nürburgring in the NLS series occasionally. Also a driver coach, also a One Lap of America winner. He's done it all. It's Dave Ogburn.
Woo!
How's it going, guys?
Hi,
Hi.
Dave. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is
I've
the
been
part.
working up my intros.
This is the
I'm-
part
I'm
where
proud.
Appreciate
Dave
that. You
just,
made me sound way cooler than I am, but I appreciate that.
Tom listed out. I'm like, damn, Dave Ogburn is pretty freaking cool.
Man,
So just take it. Just take it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just take it. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
That
how it happened.
is- Yeah, there's only a few of us who have not. I mean, that's not only a few, but there's very few of us who have spanned all of the different paddocks and things, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the three of us see each other for that. We've been in the same
Yeah,
paddocks in a lot of different
absolutely.
places at a lot of different
100%.
levels.
Yeah. Some
But
road racing, some autocross, one lap. Yeah, a lot of different things.
yeah, so because we're pre-recording this, we don't necessarily have any like events to catch up on, DJ and I. I want to start with when you and I got to know each other first a little bit. You were autocrossing a Catfish Camaro, and
Yeah.
then I got to know you a little better, and you were road racing a
Yeah.
2008 Toyota Corolla.
It was a low point or a high point, depending on what kind of cars you like. Yeah. But it was a race car.
And we've since gone to like GT4 cars at the Nürburgring and professional driver coaching and like top of the runoffs. Okay, first before getting into some of that, how did you get into motorsport stuff? What pulled you into this direction
So,
that we find ourselves all together here?
yeah, I say a lot. I mean, I say for a lot of people, it's probably through parents. So my dad was into cars. He was more like car shows. It's kind of like pre Cars and Coffee, but we would go to a lot of car shows in Virginia, and we were at the Richmond Car Show where I grew up, and there was a local autocross club called Virginia Motorsport Club, and like Sam Strano raced with them some with Mike Johnson, Junior Johnson, Tim Arrow, some of the like old school really good autocrossers. And anyway, they had a booth, and it was a VHS tape with a big TV, and it was showing an autocross. And my dad and I had no idea what it was. You know, I would say begged probably my parents for a go-kart for many
Same.
years. My dad grew up on a farm and would tell stories about his mini bike and cruising from farm to farm and going on trails and wrecking it and putting it back together and going. And I'm like, it's cool. Like we live in the suburbs. Like I appreciate that, but like I kind of want to do that too. And like now we can't have a mini bike. And anyway, I think now this is just all like trying to prove to my parents that I was probably serious about the go-kart request, and I
Just a
had
big
all sorts of
elaborate.
plans on go-karts of using my mom's minivan and how we could rearrange the garage. And so anyway, the autocross thing stuck, and so um, we saw the video, went to one of the autocrosses, watched, and then competed in the next one. But I was 15; I didn't have my learners. Um, so I got to, check tire pressures and hang out with my dad while he autocrossed, and then a year later I started. And so, yeah, I was lucky. I still started when I was 16, but it's funny looking back on it now because I remember we went to a pro solo event and we didn't feel like ready to try to compete. We went to Virginia Motorsports Park and watched a pro solo, which autocross is not the most exciting sport to watch, but it's still we met a lot of
No.
people and that kind of yeah. So autocross was the gateway for me. So autocrossed through high school and college, and then once I got out of college, I really wanted to wheel race, and I I couldn't afford to get into road racing at the time, so I bought a go kart and I started racing go karts in Ohio when I worked for Honda. So I raced at Circleville Raceway Park in a tag kart for a couple years before I moved to Texas. So autocross and karting.
What
were
was
kind of
the
the
year
intro.
range when you were in Ohio doing go-karts? Because I first met you when I was running C Street. That's when I
Yes.
first met Dave.
So I graduated from college '08. So I was in Ohio '08 and '09 is when I raced go-karts. And so I remember I used we got like a relocation bonus from Honda, which is supposed to pay for like adult things, and I bought a go-kart. And
Yeah.
so I
As you do.
it was the
The
first time
benefits of
I'd
moving
gotten
to Ohio.
yeah, I had like an actual check, and so I immediately spent that check. And um anyway, I like rushed home after work after getting the go-kart like the first time there the track Circleville was it was like $10 and you could run all day. And so I went after work one day, and Zach Veach, the IndyCar driver, was there. He was 10 at the time. So it
Oh my
was
god.
Sarah Fisher. Sarah Fisher's dad was his driver coach. And I get there, and there's just this like tractor trailer with a little 100cc go kart. And this kid is just like blasting laps, and I roll up uh in my Ford Ranger with a go-kart in the back, and like I barely know how to start the thing. And I go out there, but they were super nice to me. They helped me get out of the truck. And I remember that he was starting to race Formula BMW. And so it was just an interesting like intro. Like my first day was there with him. But I started racing, yeah, all local. So I raced at G&J Cartway in near Dayton, and Circleville, which is south of
Old G
Columbus.
and J.
Yeah, so I raced there for yeah, a year and a half until I moved to Texas. Moved to Texas in 2010 and raced go-karts, shifter carts. The tag class wasn't as big in Texas, so I wanted to find a bigger field, and pretty much everybody was running stock moto. So I ran stock moto in Texas. I got my ass kicked for 2 years in go-karts. And then autocross was a way for me to see my parents, really. Like it was a way. I didn't have much vacation as like a new engineer out of college. And um I wanted a way for my dad and I and my mom would go, so the three of us to like go to races, go to autocrosses. And so we came up with a plan to co-drive and go to more national events, and that was kind of how getting back into autocross started for me. So I went back to nationals in or back to autocross in 2011. So I had like a couple year gap where I didn't autocross.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that about I guess I didn't really know that you had taken karting so seriously or had started to try to like kind of maybe go down that route a little bit.
I spent
But
more serious money than I would care to admit, but I don't know, like, looking back on it, I didn't I didn't necessarily take it as seriously as I should. I was probably always 30 or 40 pounds overweight, like cart me plus cart.
Yeah.
And it's funny,
yeah,
Jordan Musser, the name? So he's yeah, one of the best
I
like
don't.
American go-kart racers. He's won a bunch of national championships. He's represented USA in like the Team USA in the Rotax World Final. So he was like one of the big guys in karting, and I met
Yeah,
him,
yeah.
and I've gotten to know him since then through WRL, and he's raced spec racers. And he was like, "Man, I didn't know you well at the time, but he's like, if I had, he's like, you were pretty good for being 40 pounds, overweight from the final weight." He's like, "But I didn't want to tell you to like, hey man, if you take it a little more seriously, like this might go better for you." But I didn't realize how bad I was
I think we
handicapping
always see
myself.
people
So
like that though, don't we? Where like they're better than they think they are. Like they would actually benefit from just going after the nuances that they don't think is worth it for
No, no.
like their own skill level.
I think he's saying that if this kid had at the time gone to Dave and said like, if you just lost a little weight, you'd be more competitive. Is that
100%.
what you're? Because
Yes.
that's what I had the same problem
Okay,
at
I'm
our
not
indoor
thinking that.
track.
100%.
That's not where my brain went. I was thinking
Yeah, no,
like,
no.
damn,
He was
Dave.
basically like, I didn't know you well enough to tell you to go to the gym, and you would have been a better go-kart racer. So, but like Texas at that time was, I mean, it was brutal from a shifter kart point of view because we had, I think, five drivers that had won or in that time had won SCUSA Supernats in various classes. So I mean,
Uh-huh.
it was like going to national level go-kart races in Texas. And I mean, and I would get destroyed. Like, I mean, it was like if I could be within a second, like, and so, but it also does set kind of a, I didn't know how good I was. I didn't know what I could be. Like, I just wanted to race at the time. And so it was a way
Yeah, yeah.
to wheel to wheel race and get experience. And I didn't know necessarily what it was building towards. I just wanted to do something. And for a while, I raced go karts and autocross, and which is a good blend because it was like one I was better at, one I was not as good at, and it was kind of like it made me work harder. I think it helped later when I started to maybe take it more seriously.
Yeah.
Um,
Was it like a case where the autocross gave you the taste of like, I have what it takes to do this at the top level competitively, and then the karting was the like, this is kicking my ass a little bit, but I know I've got it
yeah.
in there, that
Right,
contrast?
so yeah, no, it was
Huh.
a good contrast of, like, one taste of success and one, like, getting kicked in the face every time you went to a race, so but it was also confusing because 'cause I'm like, I don't am I any good or am I getting lucky at autocross and then karting is the real answer? Like, I didn't know, but at some point, karting got financially to the point where it just didn't make sense. Like I was racing at a basically a like a regional level. And so for me to go to the next step and do like the runoffs or Solonats, version in karting was a massive step up. And I was 22, 23, 24 at the time, and that was like I was the old guy, in that class of go-karting. Like it went up, masters started at 30, but a lot of the top competitors were, 16, 17, 18, and then they were going to then go on to formula cars or or maybe just race go-karts internationally or something at a high level. And I was sort of this tweener of like my dad wasn't paying for it, so it was kind of like but it was also a good, like you kind of see a different side of racing too. You do see that like, okay, money is a part of this thing, and there were like, I mean, I saw things where I'm like, I can't compete with that. Where somebody goes in and it's like, I'm unhappy with the handling, so I'm gonna buy a new chassis and just on the spot, 3 grand. Hey guy, put the motor on this chassis, and I'm gonna go race now. And I'm like, cool. I have one chassis that I saved up a lot for, and I'm
Yeah.
not buying another one. So, you know, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But
I can't
yeah, it was
imagine.
good
I
training. I'm glad it didn't, in ways it did not go as well as I wanted it to at the time.
I can't imagine just having like different chassis that you mount all the stuff to for different tracks. Like you get there and you're like, ah, the cart's a little pushy around here. So then you put on like
Yeah.
a stiffer rear chassis, or I have no idea the karting like chassis dynamics.
Yeah,
But yeah, I bet they have like different like handling characteristics per
for sure.
chassis. Yep. So
Yep, yeah, and it depends on, like, the grip level of the track and the tire you're using, and, I mean, it was so the cart I was using was a Burrell, and so it was axle-based tuning, so basically, like, you change the axle stiffness, which would be, like, sort of the equivalent of, like, a spring and damper, but it's all about getting the inside wheel to lift, so I had to learn a ton because it's not intuitive as, like, I was a suspension designer at Honda, like, I knew some about vehicle dynamics. I'm not, like, a race engineer. I'm not an expert, but I knew enough about tuning a car to be like semi dangerous. And then karts were a totally different ball game. But yeah, it was
Hmm.
good. It was good training. It was good practice. I mean, I was never going to be like a internationally successful go kart racer, but I'm glad I got to kind of experience like it is very competitive and very difficult. Like especially at the level
Yeah.
beyond where I went.
I've never met anybody actually to ask this question, but that makes me wonder about like if you find karting at the age where most of us find like car-based motorsports, what what was the contrast in the two kind of or even the similarities, but like how did you land on focusing on cars more? Was it the fact that the karting was like that's the one I can't afford, or
Yeah, I
because
think
you were doing both,
so
most
I
kids either start as karting kids or they end up
right.
in cars later in life.
Right, yeah, karting made sense when I was local. Like in Ohio, it was the easiest, cheapest way for me to wheel-to-wheel race. In Texas, I live in San Angelo, Texas, which is kinda off the beaten path, and there's no close. I don't have a local kart track, and so I was driving to Dallas, so like 4.5 hours to race. So I was already making the trek like you would to a road course if you lived out of town, and so I think the financials work if there's a local track because then you can have a small trailer, a truck. You don't have the big commute, like you can just because a lot of them are, one day, you don't travel for like a 3-day weekend for a lot of them. Like local karting, it's a Friday night or Saturday night. And so it's awesome if it's local because you can kind of have your regular life. And then on Saturday you race. And then on Sunday you do whatever you want. You don't have to travel. So I was kind of making it more expensive and harder by the fact that I was already traveling from out of town. But I think ultimately for me, I knew I wanted to road race. I knew I wanted to race cars. I grew up when I was trying to convince my parents to get a go-kart, like I had a high school football coach that raced SCCA and I would crew for him at weekends. And it's when the
Oh,
runoffs were on speed and I was watching the runoffs the runoffs were kind of always this thing that I built up to. Like I wanted to compete and try to win the runoffs and go to the runoffs. And I didn't have a plan at that point, but I think I always looked at the runoffs as kind of like my peak where I could get to, and that's what I sort of wanted to work towards. So go-karts were always, for me, I looked at it more of a way to learn without spending car racing money, and then maybe I could be better once I started car racing, if that makes sense.
yeah, interesting. Okay. That's kind of a in tandem with the other question that I thought of is like, where did you get the competitive spirit for motorsports from? Because I know like DJ's talked about playing football and playing Halo, and I've talked about sim racing and all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff as a kid. It sounds like football maybe was like
Like
Yeah,
athletics.
so
I
I've
don't know.
I
like where
I've
did
played
Dave
I've
find
always loved
competition?
sports. Yeah, I mean, so it was always I always loved competing, and I'm very competitive, but I'm also okay losing. Like, I'm not one of those, like, if the 3 of us played ping pong and you guys were both better ping pong players than me, like, it's not gonna ruin my day, but, like, if I'm better than you, I would love to kick your ass at ping pong. Like, it's sorta like I like competing, but I'm okay, like, not being the best, and so
What
I
if
think
it's
racing,
Dave, what if it's
once I
something that you
started.
think you're good at though? Because like ping pong, it's like whatever, I can suck at ping pong. I have put no
Yeah,
effort into being good at ping pong. But I think there's a difference when you lose at something that you're like, damn, I put a lot of effort into this thing, and like that person was just better than I was at the
yeah,
thing. Like that feels bad, right?
right. Racing became that. I mean, so it became the thing I wanted to be good at.
Okay.
But I never, I think karting, I never expected to come in and like show the go-kart kids how to drive. But with autocross,
How about the
and when I
autocrossers?
got back into with autocross, when I got back into it, like I was more competitive, and so I liked losing in autocross much less. And when I got into cars, yes, I mean, yeah. Now I'm very competitive. I don't like losing, but I think that built as something. Whereas confidence grew, I wanted to be better at it. So then the competitive kind of like fire grew more through car racing.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. Um, I was gonna go somewhere with that, and I forgot. Somewhere with oh, karting versus sorry. So karting versus cars. Then you were just like, where did
Yeah.
you land on cars? How did that end up being like that? I don't do karting anymore. I end up like I do
It
autocrossing and then
became.
car stuff.
Yeah, it was more I couldn't afford to do both, so I had to pick, and so I
Oh,
was,
okay.
um yeah, it was a financial decision. I would have loved to keep doing both, and so as I went back to nationals in 2011, and I went with Lane Borg, and so it was like we just put his car together and went to nationals, and I won, and that taste of winning, I maybe want to do more autocross, and then with my dad,
Okay.
we made this plan to go to a lot more events. And at that point, we were spending enough money on the ESP car or then the FRS where I didn't have enough vacation and I didn't have enough resources to do both. So I picked cars with the goal, like I'll do this for 4 or 5 years. And then at some point I would like to get into road racing, but I didn't necessarily know how. But I knew I wanted to road race. It was hard to know like, yeah, when I can afford it, when I have the time to do it, that sort of thing. So but yeah, autocross was the decision of um, I get to do it with my dad. I am better at it. I'm ultimately going to end up road racing with the SCCA, and it yeah, it was more. I also wanted to. I mean, I enjoyed autocrossing. I met a lot of awesome people, and
Yeah.
I didn't really want to stop autocrossing. I did autocross and road race for a while, but then I felt like I was kind of being shittier at both of them instead of trying to be good at one, and so I kinda had to pick one, and then I went down the road racing path.
It is quite the transition from racetrack to autocross. I kind of agree with that. Like Tom does it flawlessly. I don't know how Tom does it, but there is like a little bit of a, and I couldn't even pinpoint what it is. Like maybe Tom could pinpoint what it is, and that's why he's good at like making that transition. But like there's something And I don't even think it's like driving distance or something along those lines, but there is something that's like I have to tune back into. This is going to sound silly, but it's almost like autocross is more fast paced than the racetrack, and I have to get like used to the pacing of
Yes.
how much faster autocross is than anything on the racetrack. But like going from autocross to racetrack, that like the pacing is slower, so I don't feel that like I don't feel that transition. I feel the transition in the other direction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that makes sense. I mean, Tom, like you say, he's, of the three of us, he's the best at it. So I uh, I think with autocross, you also there, from road racing, you don't have the practice time. There's no warm up. I mean, I think it's one thing that's made me a better road racer is I try to treat, and I do this in coaching too, when you're working with someone on like getting up to speed quicker. I try to win every lap, treat it like an autocross, and because you do see a lot of people, because I work with guys now that road race and only road race and have only road raced, and they'll take a whole session to kind of like get back up to speed, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but in qualifying, like we could have a black flag, a red flag, somebody could hold the track down. Like if
Yeah.
you win lap one, you could be on pole. If you win lap two, you could be on pole. It's doesn't have to be who sets the fastest lap in the whole session, and so I think the autocross like sense of urgency has helped me a lot, and especially with the stuff I've gotten to do recently and the BMW and some SRO and NLS, like it in pro racing, I think it's even more of an impetus on if you want to be successful, you have to get up to speed immediately. And I think the autocross part is very good training for that because you don't have the warm up period, especially at a national event where it's just 3 runs. You have to switch on immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You almost have
You
to
guys still
switch
have my
on
mic?
you have to switch on before you get in the car almost.
Yes.
You can't be like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna drive," and then you sit in the car and then you drive up to the line, then you're like, "Well, I guess I should get amped up and ready to like perform my best." Like, no, it's like,
It's game time.
you're like setting tire pressures, you're like, "Yeah," like you're like
Right.
freaking nerding out to the sound, psh, 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 you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah.
My mic still sounds the same, right? My
Yeah.
computer just did
Yeah.
something
I
weird.
got
Okay,
you.
cool. The other part of that I think with autocross is understanding, like at lower speeds you can get away with way higher steering angles, or when the weight shifts across the nose, you can get away with like an extra little input. Like you're just driving the weight of the car so much more intentionally than someone who drives the car based on the line of the racetrack or the brake markers that they're supposed to hit. Um, and just having that like kind of built into the way you drive, your driving style. I don't know what to call that, but the way you drive
Yeah.
is like a huge I think it's a huge advantage. I don't know if it's necessarily a huge advantage for everybody. Like I still struggle when I get into a cart because I want to drive the weight of a cart and there's no weight to drive. So like I don't know
Right.
what I'm doing, which
Yeah.
I've
No, I
always
think
felt
that makes
foreign in
sense.
carts, even with working at an indoor track for like 4 years straight. And being able to compete for the track record, I'm just like, I don't really know. Like I drove a shifter cart. I'm like, I don't understand what to do. There's no weight to
Yeah.
drive. I don't understand. And I know it's not that there's no weight to drive. There is weight. It's just that I'm not tuned into that small amount. Did you have any learning curve with that when did you first drive a Spec Racer Ford?
So first
Was that the first
was
lighter thing you drove,
2017.
shifter
Yes,
karting?
yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I mean, through Goodyear, I got to do some like driving schools, and I did. So I got to drive some of the like the school formula cars at Bondurant. But I mean, that wasn't a competitive, situation. Like, I don't know if I was a second off the pace, 5 seconds off the pace, the fastest person ever. Like, it's more you're just driving.
Sure.
So, but the spec racer is different, because there's lap times and it's competitive and it's a spec car, and so. Um, but I also think my, like, kind of training for it or background was different because, like, through this whole time, I was a test driver at Goodyear, and I was driving, weekly in different cars, and a lot of my training was or what we practiced or what I had to do for work was, drive a car at the limit, and it could be an F-150 in the morning and then a Mustang and then a Camry. And so I think sometimes, like, and I've had to work on this in racing, is like so you think is, okay, I'm a test driver, so I should be able to explain everything that the car is doing. Like it's literally my job. So you would hope like I'm somewhat okay at it. But I also think it's made me so like So I'm not the fastest person in the world, but I get up to my speed very quickly, and I adapt to things very quickly, and to the point where I don't even notice them. And so I will instinctively adapt to a car or a situation and not really know why or what I'm doing or be able to describe it. And so I've had to work on in the spec racer of being more intentional of like what helps a spec racer being fast versus like driving the way that I've driven, years and years of driving production cars as a test driver, usually on lower grip tires. Could be Camrys, could be pickup trucks, SUVs, whatever, but they're usually like heavier, front engine with lower grip tires. Agreed on the Toyota Camry. Yes, you can learn, you can learn to be a good driver on a Toyota Camry, 100%. That was
Ground into the
basically
ground, he
my
said.
my.
Responding to a comment in the comments from Sam D. Yeah.
So I think in some ways, like I didn't necessarily even think or process like how do I be fast in the spec racer Ford. I was just trying to get the thing to the limit and hang on. And what I was having to adapt to is more the racing and the racecraft. Like I had gone from, yeah, I raced wheel to wheel in karts, but like in karts, I found a lot of the races, I would end up like there's the front pack of 4 guys that were going to super nationals, and then there was like the remaining 10 of us. And yeah, we would have like passing battles back and forth, but not like in the spec racer. So I wasn't really ready from like a racecraft point of view. So the stuff that I was getting more used to was bump drafting, being close, using the draft, like the racecraft side. Like I was reasonable from like a pace point of view. I mean, I had to get better, but like it was more of an adapting to how do I try to win a race, not just set a lap time. And that was a bigger adjustment for me when I started road racing.
Is that because of the draft nature of SRF?
I think part of it, I mean, like I remember distinctly the first time like I got bump drafted and went like, okay, that's what that feels like. But
Yeah.
okay, you know, I'm now touching another car and we're doing 100 miles an hour. Like I don't know this person, but I guess we're doing it. But yeah, I mean, the draft is definitely something I had to get used to, but it's also like managing my tires over a 25 or 35-minute race. Like even though it's a light car and we have a relatively resilient tire, like there's still you can burn the car to the ground in 4 laps and get your tire pressures too high. And so it's more of like controlling myself, trying not to get one fast lap, but trying to be fast over the average of a race and kind of those adjustments and decisions of like, if I make a pass here, I might get repassed. Or if I attempt to pass and it doesn't work, now I've been passed by 3 people. And now I'm at Hallett and I have to pass 4 cars to win. And that ain't going to happen. And I was in second in a good position and I made a bad decision. And that one decision ruined my race type of like
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
sort of adjustments. Like that took me a long time to, and I think a lot of it has to do with like for one, your experience and how much preparation you do, but it's also your mental capacity. So like when you're newer, like it took more of my brain to drive the car quickly. And then as I got more comfortable, I could play chess while driving the car. And a lot of spec racer races are chess matches, especially the farther you get to the front. And so I've gotten better at I can drive the car at the limit on autopilot and I can think moves ahead. It doesn't mean my moves always pan out, because the
Yeah.
other drivers are playing chess too, and sometimes they play better chess. But it was kind of those like I kind of went through a trajectory in the spec racer where like I started and I was, hey, you're pretty fast for a new guy in the class. Okay, all right, pat myself on the back, like I'm not too bad at this. And
Yeah.
then it
Yeah.
was I got to the point where like most of the races I went to, like I would be kind of right at the back of the lead pack. So if the lead pack was 6 cars or 8 cars or whatever, depending on the track, I would always be the caboose. Like I was fast enough to earn the seat at the fast table. And then I remember distinctly, like it was Road America in 2020, and I was first time at Road America. So this was like DJ, to your question, like this was where the draft, the bump drafting, this is like the ultimate chess match for a spec racer.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
very hard to like outdrive someone there. But I was sitting, I think it was 8 cars, I was an eighth. And I remember looking in front of me and it's like national champion, won a shitload of races, national, and I'm going like, okay, now I have okay, I thought what I just did was hard. Now I have to beat these 7 drivers in front of me, and that is probably harder than what I did to get at the back of the lead pack. And so,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
that, I kind of went through a trajectory of I was always at the back of the lead pack, and then I started working on like, okay, how do I leapfrog, start higher? And so I worked on having to find more speed. And one of the things that was holding me back is I was driving it more like a test driver. Like it was, sometimes, somebody makes like a one comment to you and it kind of sticks in the back of your head and you think about it like, never thought about it that way. And it was Tom Dalrymple, who's the prep shop I run with. And it's funny, he meant it as a compliment, but it helped me immensely because we were at Coda and he was like, man, I was watching the session. He's like, you put your car on the same inch, like, every time you go by. And at first, I was like, "You're right, I am awesome." Like, that
Thank you.
is thank you. Like, if this was the
Just dust
movie
off those
Driven, like, yes,
shoulders. Yeah.
I could pick the quarter up. Like, look at me and how
Pick the
special I am. And but then he was like, the guy that was drivers that were beating me, he didn't say that about them. And I'm like, "Okay, I wonder what the difference between me and them is." And I wasn't ragged enough. Like I never went over the limit. I was always like 98,
You
99,
had this like
99, 5,
comfort
I never
zone.
went over.
Yeah, you had this like comfort
And
spot, and you were really good at staying in
yeah,
that spot. But so
100%.
this actually, we actually had a conversation like this last week on the podcast where like we were talking about like just mucking it up a little bit. Like you just gotta like you have to live a little outside that like comfort cushion that you find yourself in, because then you're gonna learn more things as you explore just outside of that zone that you find yourself comfortable in. You're gonna learn what to do, what not to do, what definitely not to
Yes.
do. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna learn all these different things by like having this exploratory, you know, like excursion outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah, 100%. So so the 2022 season, like I made a distinct goal. I was like, you know what? I basically like never didn't finish a race. It was always like I never made mistakes. I never dipped a wheel. I didn't crash. Like nothing bad happened. And you'd say, like, hey, this is great. Like I was doing pretty well, some podiums, maybe a win here, but like I wasn't winning regularly or on the podium regularly. And at 2022, I told myself, like, I'm okay. I have to be okay crashing this freaking car. Like I have to be okay going off. I have to be okay making mistakes. I have to
Interesting.
go for it more. And that season, I didn't necessarily crash, but like I had a lot more DNFs. Like I would make a pass attempt and screw up and end up in the dirt and go back to 20th. And like I had a way more like what I would like incidents, like things didn't go, I wasn't test driver
So many
smooth.
more 1Xs.
And yeah, 100%. I had way more like, my safety rating went down big time.
It was 4.99.
Right.
It dropped
Nice,
to
nice.
like
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
2.3.
100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was a 4.99, but with, like, a low I rating, and it was
Yeah.
like, I get that I rating up, safety rating down,
Yep.
like, let's go.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And, it helped. Like, I started, I went to the runoffs that year, and I think I qualified 5th, where I had been more like 7th, 8th, ninth, and it was a big field at Indy that year, and it was, um and so it was the first time it was like, okay, I made a jump up the qualifying order, and then you're now racing in the top 4, top 2, top 3, like, I was in contention more often, and then the next year, I was able to kind of put it together more where I could be ragged, where the mistakes were smaller, and I didn't have the, like, egregious mistakes that dropped me 10 positions, but, it was still, like, my, like, aggression level went way up on
Yeah.
purpose. So I had a year of like dealing with those consequences, and then after that, I think I've benefited a lot from that decision, essentially.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you pointed out the like recovery of a bad choice, making a pass at the wrong time, wrong place, whatever. That was like a huge eye opener for me in B spec. which I did the
Yeah.
assessment before I bought my B spec car. I did Spec Racer Ford's spec me out a B spec and just like kind of did a
Yep.
an analysis of which one to do. Um, so I very well could have been in the same position, with spec racers, but either way, you learn like if I make this move now, then I may not get the chance to make it again. I just gave the chance for the other person to get control of the situation. But also somehow there's also this like from the outside. I've never driven a spec racer. DJ has. We've never raced either. We've neither of us have ever raced one. Is there not like a like track position is the most important thing because a yellow could come out at any point? So I just got to be like, where's the line actually? And I'm kind of curious
Yeah.
about this with like commentary too, because I sort of like have to play it up sometimes, but I don't really know because I've done so little spec
Yeah.
racing. Where's the actual line there?
I think it very much depends on the track. Like if it's more of a handling type track, like anywhere where there's not a strong draft where somebody can almost like you're
Ah, sure,
guaranteed to get
sure,
past,
sure.
like you want to lead. Like it's just
Yeah,
get to the lead and try to hold the lead. But then, Road America, a track like even Sebring or Coda, like it's I always looked at it like I want to stay in the top 2, and if I get back to 3rd, then it's like I wanna be in one of
gotta
those
make moves.
positions, but you don't always get to
Yeah.
control that because everybody else has the same goal, like, that's not rocket science. Stay in the top 2 to win the race is not like, you know, that book isn't gonna sell. Like, but
The
it's,
10th book from Ross Bentley.
yeah,
Stay in the lead and you'll
right,
win the race.
right. Yeah, right.
Wow, this is
Lead all the
revolutionary
laps
stuff,
from
guys.
pole and you win.
Yeah.
There's my coaching. Uh, so it's I very rarely think of, I want to lead because a yellow can come out. I mean, I'm aware of it, like that it can happen, but it's for most of those tracks where you know that there can be a pass on the last lap, like you're playing chess to be second for the pass on the last lap. Again, doesn't always pan out, but it's the percentage, So I will usually, like before a big race, whether it's uh, runoffs or a super tour event like a June sprints, like I've gone through and like just for the drivers that do post videos, you go back. So like Bobby Sack is one of the main ones, and I have my video. I have a lot of Denny and Stripling and Russ Turner's video. Like I will go watch. I don't always watch the whole race, but I will watch the last lap and try to figure out like, okay, who was in what
Mm,
position and what is the the higher percentage move because it is obviously not 100% in your control.
yeah.
But I never go into the last lap at a race like that thinking I want to lead because a yellow can come out because it's still more likely to be green and you're more likely to get past on the last lap and finish second or third. So I still try to set myself up like it's going to be green.
But
But
there's
so is
Yeah.
everybody else.
there's always
So again, it doesn't always pan out.
there's always these calculations going on though. So like in like Miata races on iRacing, if it looks like everyone's really aggressive, then I want to lead going into last lap, even if
Yeah.
it's like easy to pass me down the thing, because I'm assuming that like a scrum is going to break out for second, and I get to just like make a gap, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on like kind of the crowd that you're racing in, like where you actually want to be. And
Yeah.
I feel like in those drafty races, sometimes first place is the easier place to be because everyone thinks they need to be second. So they start fighting to the death for it. On the last lap, you get a couple car links, you're gonna win the race to the line. So
Yeah. So I think one thing that is in the spec racer, I know most of the drivers that are around, and so I'm not, and I'm sure you do in a lot of like, especially like top split MX5 races, but like you're probably more likely to encounter someone that you don't have any idea who they are, and I'm less likely to encounter the wild card. But that is one thing that has probably changed the class in the last couple of years is you do see a few more
These damn
really
kids.
fast 14, 15, and 16-year-olds, and yeah, it changes I mean, it changes the calculus. Like if
yeah,
it's
because it throws a
Brian
little chaos in
Schofield,
there.
yeah, 100%, because they're like I was about to say lizard brain. Jesus, okay, their lizard brain is like going.
They've just got his
Put, put, put
10%.
put money in the jar.
Lizard.
Yeah, there you
Mhm.
go. Their 16-year-old brain is thinking like, this old guy is not beating me. Like that guy looks like my dad. There's no way my career's over if that guy whose driver's suit is too tight, beats me at this
Dead
race.
on arrival.
And yes, right, my career's over. Roger Penske not calling. And you do see, like, depending depending on who's in the field, then yes, 100% my calculus changes. If it's me and 3 kids, I'm gonna try to get to the front because I'm hoping that the kid who's in 3rd doesn't wanna get beat by the kid in 2nd because they're both competing for Instagram followers and, being a race car
I
driver,
love
and I
I
wanna
love
win the
this is
race.
your I don't know if any of this is true, but this is like how Dave thinks of all these like teenagers that he's racing against that like, oh
100%.
man, if that kid passes me, he's gonna at least get a dozen Instagram followers. I can't let that happen.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
true.
It is true.
it's part of
Tom
the
says
math.
it's true.
It's part of the math.
It's like you literally
So,
see
yeah, it
it.
has
You see it
it
happening in real time in front of you, like beautiful mind
right.
numbers, like
I've got a
in front of you.
counter.
Yeah.
I've got a
Yeah.
counter on my phone. It's like they
Yeah, people are
It
um
goes
running race
cha-ching,
data.
cha-ching,
Dave Ogburn
cha-ching,
has like
but
a
it's followers.
spreadsheet of
yeah,
followers in live time. Instead of lap
yeah,
timing, you have like follower count.
right. Mine's going down, theirs going up.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, this kid's on the brink of 5-digit followers. I'm not gonna get in his way. I'm just like
This
he's gonna run me off the
yeah,
track
right.
if it comes down
100%.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Checking grid
So
sheets
it
based
has
on
that
followers.
has changed. That has changed the calculus sum in the past few years because we've seen, like, yeah, more of an influx of, yeah, younger kids using Spec Racer as, a bit of a stepping stone. And also, if you're only going to be in the class for a year or two, you kind of don't need to make long-term friends and you only need to win. That's pretty much, so it becomes more like a circle track, formula feeder series mentality than, like, I mean, I am friends with a lot of people that I race with. So it's hard to know exactly how much that changes. Sometimes the way I tell myself it doesn't, but maybe it does.
No,
I
that's
don't know. I mean, I'm sure I would race differently if I literally hated everybody who I was around. But
that's really interesting though. I've never thought about that before, but I do tend to in a sense, like if I only plan on spending a year or 2 or 3 events or whatever, what do I care? What do I care if these people think
yeah, screw
I
it.
don't think that way naturally. I think just like I'm gonna meet the people and if I like some of them, I'm gonna like some of them and some of them I'm not gonna mesh with. Like I don't really think of it through a competitive lens socially first. That's a great point, to be honest.
I do
Yeah,
feel like
With
though with any kind of draft racing though it just benefits you to be friendly with the people around you because
yeah, yeah.
in my experience with
yeah,
draft racing like you can be like this is to me this is the most effective strategy with draft racing. You make best friends for that race and then you pick the most opportune time to completely abolish that friendship. Like you just
yeah,
have to pick the exact right time to be like actually screw you and then they get passed by like 4
yeah.
cars and you're like
Is it
cool.
fair to say
I
is
don't
it
have to worry
fair to
about
say
that
that
friendship anymore.
yeah, all you're trying to do is become friendly enough that you can when you stab them in the back, they're like, "Yeah, I would've done the same thing."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, no,
Exactly.
no,
Yeah.
100%. But that's
They can
more how
respect
it
it.
is with like the perennial, like, and some of it is because of experience. Like, we know you can't win a race at VIR or Road America or Sebring and a Spec Racer like completely on your own. And so
Yeah.
you're going to have somebody with you in in the last couple of laps, whether it's one person or two. And I would ideally want it to be one. If it's two, that's better than three and better than four and better than five. And so, um, but you see drivers that come in that have good speed that are they don't have the pre-planning to know that they're keeping the pack bunched up, or maybe there's four drivers back there who are working their ass off to catch us and our three-car pack is about to become seven and that's chaos. And I would rather sit here in third and work with you to
Yeah.
make sure that they don't pass us and then deal with you in the last two laps. But you see some of the younger drive, and I'm stereotyping, I know, but like I just seen it more where like it's they're not thinking that way. They're thinking, I'm in third, I want to be in second. I'm in second,
Yeah.
I want to be in first. And it's like a very binary, like, I want to be in the highest position I can at the end of every lap, like somebody's keeping score. But if I could be in eighth for the entire race and win, absolutely no one remembers where you were on the second to last lap. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely no one
Yep,
cares.
true.
No one cares.
Yep. Is it ever frustrating? And on a positive flip of that, does it make you cherish when you're racing driving in places like maybe one lap autocross. I don't even maybe not endurance racing, but you're like my skill behind the wheel actually is what's making me that's not fair to say either. I'm trying to make sure I ask this
I know
question right, but
I
it's
know what
like
you're trying to
I
say,
find
Tom.
draft racing so
Yeah.
frustrating because it's like I'm not in
No,
control of this.
it's not my. So the only place that I find frustrating in a spec racer is Road America. Like, in any
Hmm,
other track where there is drafting as a part of it, you can still drop somebody. Like, I can't drop somebody who's at my level or at like a front runner pace, but it separates. Road America is the one where if you're within a second of the true pace, you
yeah,
can hang on. So Road America, like,
where the drafty zones are kind of
is not
separated
my favorite,
equally
like,
throughout.
100%. Like, yeah, so I
Yeah,
like, I would love to go race Road America in a GT4 car or WRL or something like that. Like, love to. Like, I really like Road America in one lap was awesome. But Road America in a spec racer is my yeah, it's like a guilty pleasure. I sort of enjoy it in a weird way when it like, it's rewarding when it goes well because it's like sometimes when you don't enjoy something, you don't think it's like your strength, but then when it works out, you're like, "Oh, damn, that was crazy." Like, I won this race on racecraft, not on skill. But if you gave me, the would you rather do if I could only race a 10 race season at Hallett or Road America, I would pick Hallett. Like, just
sure,
because I want to go out qualify somebody because I drove better. Like, that's what I enjoy. Like, I can use the draft, but like I enjoy by myself qualifying where it's just me and the clock and the other drivers. And then in the race, we're just racing.
But then
But Road
even
America is just, it's where the runoffs have been. And that's where I wanted to go. So I kind of had to, learn it. But if the runoffs never went to Road America, I would not shed a single tear. Like, I would be completely okay
but
with that.
even in qualifying, because it's not like iRacing qualifying where you have the whole track to yourself, like, you're out there with cars, like, you're working together with other cars,
You have to
like
be. Now that part is enjoyable because it is then you feel it still takes a lot of skill because you have to working together with somebody in the right way. Like, Russ and Denny and I helped each other a lot, and we watched Spec Miata, what they do, and we kind of in 2024 at VIR. No, 2023 at VIR. Denny had to miss the first part of qualifying. So it was just Russ and I. And usually it was Russ and Denny and I. So this was a time for like Russ and I to try to qualify together. And we had come up with a strategy of, we're going to do it a little bit differently. Instead of like, hey, we're both going to run 10 tenths. And if the back car can get to you halfway down the straightaway, you give me a little bump and we'll just kind of tandem drive our laps. That's good for
mhm,
a 2:04.5. Like, that's good for like a
yeah,
top 5 lap time. We were like, okay, we're gonna preemptively, the front car is gonna roll back and we are gonna be connected the entire straightaway. And we are gonna sacrifice a little bit of entry speed on the first car and we are gonna push the whole straightaway. And we did it and like hung a second on the field. And that was an amazing feeling because you don't hang a second on a spec racer field at any time at the runoffs. But that was because we made a plan, we executed it. Now we ended up somebody beat us for pole and we started like second and fourth, but we knew that day that like we had earned the top 3, top 4 starting position that was all we needed for the race. So that part, that style of driving, I still really enjoy. It's only the true like what's the spec racer equivalent of pack racing, like an old Indy car at an oval like that. I don't, it's not my favorite. Like, I mean, if the runoffs were at Road America forever, like I would still go back, but I would not have like a burning desire to go back every year. So I'm excited about the change
yeah.
away from Road America.
I agree. Kind of, yeah. It just starts to feel like a roulette to an extent, but I also can appreciate that even though I don't look at it that way, that uh takes a huge amount of skill on the flip side to like zoom out as you were talking about, zoom out and like see the chess match unfolding and plan something that's smarter than everybody else and actually execute it. I know there are people who just feel like they have that under control. I'm not one of them, so that's why I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think DJ has it under
Yeah.
control with a lot of the iRacing series that are
I
a
f-
little bit more like
I feel like a
you can
little
do
bit of a
reps in them.
yeah, I feel like a little bit of a puppeteer sometimes. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
I've like see it
which is fun.
happening in front of me, and I'm just like, ah,
Yeah.
they're falling
But it,
for it, and then
right.
it
But
works
it
out.
is, I mean, that is one of the things that I think, for whether you want to be a good sim racer or you're a real racer and want to sim or whatever, but that is one of the things that I tried to get better at in the sim and use it for practice. Like race to spec racer, the official series is at Road America. I normally run like 2 races a month, and I ran like 10 races in a week at Road America, and it was and every time I was in a field where, like, I happened to be the fastest, it was like, "Damn it. Like, this is not what I came here
Yeah,
for." Like,
yeah,
I need, like, or I happened to be the 3rd quickest and 2 guys got away. It's like, "No, you assholes. Like,
yeah.
make it a pack. Like,
Yeah,
this
we're
is
all
I'm
supposed to race here. Come on.
yeah, help
Competition
me out
caution.
here."
Yeah.
You know, that I don't want to do because anyway, I do think there's some things about the draft and iRacing that are realistic and others that are less so, and so that makes it the pack feel different in
Yeah.
the sim versus the real car. And
Which
the big thing to me is the power of the bump draft. Like
okay.
the
Yeah.
bump
Yeah,
drafting
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
so much more powerful in real life, and so you can use the bump draft to like catch a car or kind of control like somebody helping you close the pack back up. And I feel like that tool in the sim is taken away from me. And then the draft is like sometimes a little too powerful. And it's like, I don't want to catch you there. Like that's damn it. That I would have caught you like 1,000 feet down the straightaway, and that would have felt more normal. And so like I find my rhythm sometimes in the sim is like a little bit off, but it's still, I think the other thing about the pack racing, is like at a track like Road America, that the tension builds and you can almost feel it. Like DJ mentioned, like this guy behind me, he's about to get wild. Like I can tell. You can
I
almost
better get in
like
front of the person in
you
front of
can
me so he can deal with it.
exactly,
Yeah.
like you can kind of feel who's about to lose their shit,
Yeah,
who's in
yeah,
control,
yeah.
and you're like, okay, I really want that guy to move a few positions back because I think he's about to get frustrated and his frustration is about to ruin my race. And so
Yeah.
that part in the sim I find super helpful because you're you race with some people that have really good, like what I would consider like transfer to real world racecraft. And then you have other people where I'm like, for the love of Christ, will you go race a real car for like a weekend, please? So you can like
Yeah, yeah.
not do, it's lap 1 and you're weaving. Like stop weaving now. Like save that for the last lap, bro. There's a pack of 7 of us. Like you're
Yeah.
killing me. Like we don't need to weave. Like just be okay not leading because you're keeping this pack together. Like, so
Hmm.
some but I also think, like, dealing with different drivers in sim racing has helped me when I go back to the real racing and it's drivers I know a little bit more, but there could be, a new driver in a different region that I've never met before and I've never raced before, and the first time I meet them is turn 1 at a super tour at the runoffs, and it's like, "Okay, I gotta figure it out on the fly, like, what this person is gonna be
See,
like."
that's where the social skills, like off track stuff comes in.
Yeah.
You
Right.
just you just
Should have
make
met
friends
this
with them a
person.
little bit. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, you just
Yeah.
put your face put to your name. They
Yep.
they know.
Be
I
super
honestly I had so much success
nice.
with that, especially in B spec.
Yep. You just
What,
Okay.
DJ?
you
Yeah,
just
that's
gotta be
good.
super nice,
Yeah, yeah.
"Oh,
And then
man, your
even you
car looks
kind of throw them a bone
great."
a little bit, like
Yep.
when the green comes out, here's my plan. It could be a complete lie. Then you just like,
But then they
Yeah.
know you're
so
lying.
so what do you see what they give you?
Then it's like a crash course in, relationships, like, but, like, accelerated to, like, 10 times. Because like, you could tell them the plan, and then you could do exactly the plan, and then they will trust you. But the moment like, if you go out and you're like, "Okay, this is what his plan was," and then you do something opposite, then they never trust you again. But if you do what you planned a couple times, and then you see that they make a little bit of mistake, and then you, like, adjust the plan where you can kinda, like, shove the knife a little bit, if you have been trustworthy enough of the times, they'll go, "Well, I did make that mistake. I probably would have done the same thing," like Tom was saying earlier. So
Yes.
you kinda have to, like, play that, like, little game. My favorite thing, talking about, like, the person behind getting a little wild, sometimes I will intentionally try to rile them up a little bit, and then I'll just let them go. I'll let them go mess with the person in front of me. 'Cause
Okay,
then
there
it
you
might
go.
it might get a little
Yeah,
easy
right,
if especially if the person in front of me is a little riled up too. I'm like, "Oh, this is a perfect combination. You 2 go at it."
right. Yeah. You guys go become friends, and I'm
Yes.
gonna hang out right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
To see how that goes.
That's why I say
Before I
sometimes
ask,
sometimes it feels like a little bit of like you're like a puppeteer. You're like you rile this guy up, and then this person's you can see they're getting riled up all on their own. So you'll assist with that, and then you're like, okay, all right, I have stewed the pot. You guys go be chaos. These
exactly.
these are the dumb mind games I play while I'm enjoying iRacing.
Fun.
Before I ask about the Nürburgring, we were talking about tires last week, and we realized I don't even remember what we were talking about. It was something about
Tire
oh,
pressure.
tire pressures. Either way, what if anything came from your like tire engineering and tire testing background to motorsports? How much did they cross over? And if nothing, then at least just tell a funny story about like rolling over a suburban or something.
Yeah. So, well, I think, I mean, a ton. Like, yes, I mean,
Really?
I
Okay.
for 100% would not be, kind of where I am in racing without I had a very unique job, and Goodyear has a really good program for training test drivers, and a lot of that is Nick Galata, who you guys have met, who's my co-driver in the Goodyear one lap car. Like Nick really took me under his wing and taught me a ton, about test driving and racing because he raced circle track cars for a long time at like a semi-pro level, like getting paid to do it in late models, and then
Yeah.
did some races in Grand Am Cup, so like what would be Michelin Pilot Challenge now, and he's been around the block with a lot of OEMs and a lot of test drivers, and so
Sure.
um, I had the unique ability to like just practice a lot. I mean, and just work on like inputs, how to make a car rotate, how to catch a car, like, build car control, like in a low stress environment. So my job specifically as a tire test driver, like I learned an immense amount that, yeah, I, I sometimes feel like if anybody knew like what I truly did day in and day out for like my entire career, like you would look at me and go like, why don't you win all the races? Like when I get beat by a dentist, I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm not nearly as good a dentist as you are. So like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
how did this yeah, like I always sometimes feel like a failure, like how am I like I should have the ultimate advantage, like
You mean you
Yeah,
you
have
were
a
yeah.
cleaning teeth
yeah,
yesterday. I was driving cars.
you have a career where you have to know other things other than driving, and you still beat me in driving? What
And you
the
beat me. Like,
yeah.
what am I doing? Like, I'm done.
Dude, that's so real.
So I think
Tom
I
feels that.
think I think from a like a tire testing point of view, the thing that was like the most applicable is that adaptability, which helped in autocross and helps in but road racing. And I think a lot of it, like the autocross spec racer one lap plus my job kind of parlayed into um one lap still gives you that ultimate, like you have 3 laps, you have to push, you can't make a mistake because a mistake is even, like you can throw an autocross run away. You cannot throw a one lap away. Like your
Right.
whole event could be done with, well, obviously with one mistake. Even a tiny mistake could end your week.
Yeah, you could break a
Um,
wheel, something minor.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So like but from a testing point of view, what it really helped me do is just adapting to what the tire needs, like feeling for one, it built the confidence to explore, the limit and go above and go like, I'm okay catching a slide at 100 miles an hour because I've done it 1,000 times at lower speeds and at higher speeds. So like I have a real confidence in my ability um, to control a car at the limit, but then I also can figure out like what a tire needs to, get pace out of it. So like in the spec racer where I notice it is on cold tires, start of races, like that is absolutely where I'm strongest. Like my pace
Mm,
relative to even guys that are, drivers that are podium at the runoffs, win the runoffs, like if we're at a kind of a handling track, where it's like less of the draft, like I am the quickest on lap 1, 2, 3 until the tires come in, and then it kind of settles out. But I think I have a comfort with like the slip angle, with building heat, feeling the tires come on, feeling the grip that, came from years and years and years of driving different tires on different cars in the wet, in the snow, on dirt, on ice, and
Yeah.
it built like a real feel for feeling the grip.
I have a question, and this came up last week because we were talking about tire pressures. How do you know
Okay.
what the right tire pressure is, Dave?
By testing.
What are you testing for?
Oh God, is that the wrong ed I feel like I'm getting in the middle of
Nope,
something.
nope. You're
No, no,
fine.
you're
You're
No.
doing
fine.
great, but also that just have this. I've learned that people who know what they're talking about will never give you a straight answer. So whether it's engineering or
Yeah,
race car, and you ask a question, they're like, "It depends." Or if you're
100%. I know you guys talk
Well,
about the
okay.
Dunning-Kruger curve.
I'll
Like, I
I'll
think
give
about that a
you.
lot because people ask me tire questions all the time, and it's like, "It depends, dude. I don't know what the answer to your question
it
is." Like,
depends.
Well,
um, so
so hold on. I'll give you the
so
context. So on a like modified second gen twin in a class called CST, uh,
yeah,
we're running like
We're
29.
it's an autocross
we're
class.
running like 5 degrees
Autocross is
of
where you drive around a parking lot full of cones.
yes. Are you familiar? Anyways, it's
Sorry, go ahead.
-5 degrees of camber, which is like a lot of
Okay,
camber, and we were still getting more outside heat than inside heat just around the autocross
okay.
course. So I assumed more pressure, and that was actually slower than less pressure and just like uneven heat across the tire. That goes beyond like that goes outside of what I would traditionally think. Because one weekend we were at high pressures and next weekend we were at low pressures, and like the results were completely different. So
Yeah.
like that would be like the testing or whatever, but like what like metrics should we be aiming for or like testing for or looking for to try to determine what the ideal tire pressure is on a given setup of a car?
So I think, um, so when I do tire pressure stuff on my spec racer, I am and some of this is like a theory, you kind of build of like personal like learnings, but like I
Yep.
think some of it depends on the car setup, like soft, stiff, where your dampers are, like what keeps the tire happy. But I look at it. I think there's two parts of the equation. One is like single lap pace, but then the other is like keeping it in a window over a race distance. So like I will run a higher tire pressure in qualifying because I want the tire to switch on sooner in a qualifying scenario. But if I did that for a 35-minute race, like I would be out of the window where the grip level drops. And so I think a lot of it is like there are windows and you're trying to explore like what is the window that the tire works. So every tire is different and it'll be different on a different car with a different suspension setup. So this is why it's all like a massive pain in the ass or interesting depending on how you look at it. But it may be that the tire you're running is works from 28 to 30 psi, and if it goes above 31 hot or 32 hot or 33, like the uh the grip level drops. And so if you need a short run, like to me, you're trying to get the tire in the window when you need it. And so for a while, I ran tire pressure monitoring on my spec racer. So I bought a system that tied into my data because I wanted to try to learn, like, okay, when is the peak
Yeah.
grip? Like when, because I kind of, I could race over multiple weekends and see like, hey, at 24, is it always my fastest lap time is at 24 psi? And I just don't know this. You know what I mean? Like I just come in and go like, oh, lap 5 always seems to be the ticket, but it's actually because that's when I'm at like the optimum like tire heating, and it's like the whole tire. It's not just the surface, it's you want temperature in the whole tire. Like
Yeah.
a bulk temperature is kind of the term for it. Um so for your car, if it's like a time trial or something like that, then it's going to be a shorter window. Like you're trying to find like what that temperature is where the tire makes, or sorry, what pressure makes the most grip. You're not having to worry about if you drove the piss out of it for 35 minutes, would it be out of that window?
Right.
So a lot of my tire pressure work in the spec racer is how high can I start to where I'm getting the hot pressure and I have a good car at the end of the race because I want my car to be good at the end. Um, but there, even in the spec racer world, spec tire, spec car, there are drivers who swear that their hot pressure that they want is 4 psi different. And I used to think that that was just like maybe a gauge difference and they just think it's 23 and it's actually like 26,
Sure.
which is
Yeah.
definitely a thing. Um, so at work, we have like calibrated gauges. So you check it next to a master, like, certified industry gauge. And so
Yeah.
you can adjust the gauge to match the master gauge. So that's definitely something you see in tire pressure world where like people compare tire pressures and their gauges might be 2 psi different.
I've seen
And
that
you
a lot.
think
Yep.
you're arguing, but you're actually saying the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
but some of it like cars that run stiffer damper setup, stiffer bar settings in the spec racer tend to like a higher tire pressure. And then on the lower side, if it's a softer car, you tend to like lower, getting more mechanical grip out of the tire. It also depends on track grip. Like sometimes I think if the track is low grip, I want to add more grip to the car. So it's a softer setup, a softer, like a lower tire pressure, because tire pressure is spring rate too. So
Yep.
that's kind of what you're dealing with is you're dealing with the grip, but then also like trying to make the spring rate of the tire match what the car is doing.
So
So
there
that's a
so
lot
there
of
is no
words to not
answer.
actually answer your
It's
question.
just it depends.
It depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
It depends.
Damn it. I knew it was gonna end up like
I
that.
was curious how he was going to salvage this. Why did my tire pressure or why did my tire pressure change work last weekend at this autocross?
I just
That's a
I
good answer.
yeah, I don't know. Like okay, ours was like a 8 psi difference, so it was a pretty like large difference. But I was adjusting the tire pressure based on like the surface because I'm just thinking
Pyrometer.
more of the tire on the ground, better, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And if the outside's being used for like temperature wise, or at least like the measurement of it, if it's been used on the outside way more than inside, then I would think more pressure helps prop up the edge of the tire. Then you use more of the tire, and it's better. And this like we'd have to do like a ABA testing to actually see what the tire pressure difference was, like the times. But the lower pressures just like netted just a completely different result than the weekend prior, and the car was easier to drive and all those other things. But it's like, okay, what should like data wise, what should I look at? Because that's a lot where my brain lives. Is like I want to know the why, so then I can put that information into a bunch of different scenarios into the future.
Yeah.
If it's just th- the curbs go burr and the tire pressures are it depends, then I don't know where to take that. So
Yeah, so I think it is in your car experimenting and finding what makes the fastest lap time or gives you a balance or a grip feel. Like some drivers may respond to a pointier response that comes from a little bit higher tire
yeah,
pressure, and they can actually get the pace with a little less grip. And some drivers may want more grip, and they're maybe uh, their inputs help still make the car turn, and then they're maybe using more weight transfer. They're doing something that's
yeah.
like they can deal with the understeer that results from maybe that less response, softer feel, but more grip.
Okay, so
And
my
so,
my takeaway is that there isn't a specific metric that we can look at to understand what the tire pressure should be. It's always going to be it depends. So
yes,
really what you should do is just experiment and not look at any kind of singular thing because it really
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
it
and
might matter and
I
it
think
might not matter.
tire temps mislead people a lot.
Yeah.
Like
No,
I
I
think that
feel
there's
misled, Dave.
yeah, because there's there's like the kind of like, oh, you should have XYZ split on a tire temp. And the reality is like said who and why. Like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the other thing is like how are you taking the tire temps? When are you taking I used to take tire temps because I thought like I'm an engineer, I'm a test driver. Like, of course, like I have to, like, yeah, my wife's at the track with me. It's like, here's the pyrometer. Like, this is what we do. We're professionals. Like, I can't have anybody seeing me like as a tire engineer not using a pyrometer.
Yeah.
But
You wouldn't be
I
caught dead without one in your pocket. Like somebody like, "Oh,
100%,
Dave,
like,
what's the
it's in my
tire
pocket
temp?"
protector, like,
Yeah,
it's part of
exactly.
the it's part of the equipment, and then I did a test with Goodyear where we were using IR sensors, and, like, watching the infrared tire temp and how much it changed during a lap, I'm going, "I'm never using a pyrometer again," because it would change, like, 80 degrees from a corner to a straightaway,
Yeah.
and so, if you do a cool down lap, take that data and throw it into the trash can. even if you ran hard into the pits, your tire temp measurement is what it was in the last corner. And if that last corner happened to be a right-hander, like, um, it's try not to read Lou God's responses. He's typing.
Maybe we'll have you guys
um,
on
so
in a pair in the future. You guys can
yeah,
argue this
so
out
it's
or agree it out either way.
yeah, so I use tire pressure more and I try to track it very religiously, starting and cold, and be consistent in how we're inflating the tires, whether that's with nitrogen or dry air or purging or whatever, so that we're getting similar gain. And then the tire pressures to me become also a better indication of the balance. Like I very rarely have had uh, a tire, like if I started even or I know what the split was and that split has gained on one axle,
I do
I
the
very
same
rarely
thing.
have had that not correlate with like what the balance was.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I use the tire pressure to help correlate like my own feeling, in some ways of like, okay, if I think the car was loose and the tire pressures agreed and I watched my video and the car was loose, then the car was loose.
Yeah.
But there are times where I'm like, because I think sometimes like we remember oversteer moments, especially if it scared the shit out of us. Like we remember this thing that happened, but like car was actually understeering and you just happened to get this big release into oversteer. And I've had so many drivers in the spec racer world, especially when I've been coaching, they're like, oh, my car's so loose, my car's so loose.
But then you look
And
at
watch
tire
the video.
pressures
And
and it's
it's
like,
like,
well, actually, you're working the front axle way more than the rear axle.
yeah, it's like, no, your car doesn't turn.
Yeah.
And then you worked so hard to make it turn that it was fully saturated in understeer. And then it released into this massive slide that scared the crap out of you. And so you remember that. But most of us don't remember the like mild understeer we had in like every single corner that built more pressure in the right front if it's a left-handed track or
Yeah.
whatever. So I
Yeah.
use the tire pressure a lot to help me tune the car, but a lot of it's getting in the spec racer world, it's about getting. I want my ending pressure to be where I think the tire is happiest.
I do that tire pressure thing all the time in iRacing. I don't think I've ever done it in real life. I've never
What thing?
like where you're looking at like the workload of the tire based on like the tire pressure ramp. I do that in iRacing all the time because everything's at like in iRacing, everything's minimal pressure and
Yeah,
like so everything's the same tire pressure. And a lot of the cars will have like the tire pressure on the dash. And
right.
I'll like I'm building a setup for the car or whatever, and I'll be like, feels like I'm kind of chewing off the left front of this car, and I look down and see that that tire pressure's higher, and I'm like, okay, I could make this I could like loosen this up a little bit, or I could change the balance of the car. So then I'm working like the tires evenly. Like I'll use that as like a setup tool in iRacing. I don't know why that I've never thought about taking that outside of iRacing and using it into the real world to try to understand like, okay, are we just driving around the rear of this car and we actually, if we throw a little bit, more stability into it, we'll have a more even workload through all of the tires. I think using
Yeah.
tire pressure is like a really good idea
Well,
to do that.
the other thing about using the tire pressure is the tire pressure doesn't it the tire temps change so drastically from the load that is actually on them. The tire pressures don't. So they give you more of like an average snapshot versus like, oh, this is the thing that happened in the last corner when you pulled onto pit lane.
Yeah.
And so you can then like there are some tracks where I have four different starting tire pressures. And then when I come in and it's like 26, 26, 26, 26,
Yay.
I pat myself on the back.
Yes. Yeah.
And
We
that's the
nailed
goal,
it.
My most recent experience with this was trying to Andy Smenegard's sister Kirsten, who comes to all the
Okay.
grid life races. She would end up being the like, oh, did you check tire pressures? Okay, yeah, I'll go check them kind of person. So she'd see all the tire pressures just in helping all 10, 12, however many people trying to get on track. And I would I would know what I wanted, but I could never explain it to her, right? I could always be like, "Yeah, I want like 19 in the left front, 21 in the left rear, and then like 23 and 24 in the right front, right rear." She's like, "What?" And like I couldn't explain it to her, and I still don't understand. I still don't think that what we've talked about here is like a science, right? It's just like a feel thing. Like I just know for the most part, that one's gonna come up the most, that one's gonna come up the least. I know what my target pressure is. I'm gonna kind of meet in the middle for the couple that are gonna get worked a little bit less. It's a black art, but honestly, I'm patting myself on the back for like when you said the pyrometer is kind of useless. I said that last week. I was like, I feel like that's just says who? Says why?
I'm
No
never
one.
gonna pay attention
Just
to
never.
tire temperature again. I'm done with
Yeah.
tire temperature.
Just throw
Yeah,
just throw the pyrometer out.
Peter Schnorr,
Buy
I know you're
Tell the
listening to
pyrometer,
this.
buy a nicer tire pressure
Yeah,
gauge.
look, Peter Schnorr, I know you're
Damn.
listening to this. I am so sorry. You were right this whole time.
I did get in the middle of something.
Wait, someone asked a question. It segues perfectly into the Nürburgring thing. Where was it? Where was it? Where was it? Oh, from Sam. As you've now been exposed to a more international paddock over the years, have you ever had to explain autocross? And have you managed to do it
Yes.
without saying, well, it's way more fun than it sounds, or anything similar?
No, so I usually like I've watched enough. Like if you guys watch the like German auto slalom videos when they're going like
Oh yeah.
120
Yep, we
miles an
have.
hour at an
Yep.
autocross. So I usually say like they'll ask me like how'd you start racing or whatever, and it's like autocross. It's like you guys call it auto slalom. And they're like, oh, auto slalom. I don't tell them it's half the speed, but I let that ride.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
Nice.
just
There
use
you
the
go.
auto slalom, and then they're like, oh, auto slalom. Yeah, 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 cool. And then
And you're like, it's so
Do
then
you
I
they
know
don't
if
have to
that is
explain
that
it.
derogatory? Do they judge you still? Because I feel like you get judged when
No,
you say you're an
I don't.
autocrosser here.
I
They're
I
good.
feel like there's more of that here than there. I don't get the vibe there as
All
much.
right.
I mean, I'm not like Mr. International, but like yeah, I've never had like somebody judge me
at
because of it.
least at
I
least
do
that
feel
he
like
noticed.
there's more shit between autocrossers and road racers versus like the slalomers and the hill climbers and the road racers over there.
Sure. Yeah, they're okay. That's
Yeah,
clicky. Okay, so I know the Spec Racer group is a roughly the plug towards the Nürburgring stuff. But
Yes.
what was it actually like to go through getting a license for the Nürburgring? I think a lot of people think they know, but what is it actually like?
Yeah. So the basic process is
It
you have to start
depends.
with an FIA license.
Lugot said it depends.
does
Oh
it
God,
depend?
dude. I'm gonna have to turn the chat off.
Yeah,
The
that's so funny.
the
Well done.
so you have to start with an FIA license. And the FIA license, one thing I've learned, I didn't know. I mean, I picked SCCA road racing, and that was somewhat of a lucky choice when it comes to getting an FIA license because there's the FIA ACCUS, which is the overall like FIA US governing body. Under that, you have IMSA, USAC, SRO, and I think SRO and USAC are together, and then you have SCCA. And so you have to run a certain number of ASN or FIA races in the US, which SCCA counts and NASA does not. So one thing I've seen
Hmm.
have people stumble over is they race NASA a long time, and NASA is not a member of FIA ACCUS, so therefore those races don't count. And so
Hmm.
I didn't have to deal with that, but I've had a driver I've coached who races in NASA, and he wanted to get one, and he's now having to run SCCA races to get the initial license. So luckily, just for me, the SCCA side, like it was very easy to get the FIA license because the SCCA can do it. So you start with FIA license. Um, then you can there's a permit class, so it's called Permit B. There's 3 levels of a permit at the Nürburgring. Uh, it's DMSB, Permit Nordschleife A, B, and C. So C allows you to race in a series called RCN, which is more like a time trial, and it's kind of one step below NLS. NLS used to be called VLN, but that's the kind of like pro
Yeah.
semi-pro. I think of it, it's like a combo of like IMSA, GTD, and WRL. It's crazy, but it's everything in between. So that is the series that like when Verstappen was there a few weeks ago, like the NLS race, that used to be called VLN. So that's the like national German championship only run at the Nürburgring. Um, you have to have a permit B to race in NLS,
Okay.
permit C to race RCN. You can compete in RCN, and if you complete a certain number of races or laps, you can then apply for a permit B. That's how I did it. You can also take a permit class. So, like when it made news last year that Verstappen was going to the Nurburgring, he had to take a class. That was the class that he had to take. And I found out very personally that they make absolutely no no exceptions, because I had gotten to go to the Nürburgring for Goodyear and had run in the industry pool. And so I was going to go to a race 2 years ago with the group I've gone with. So it's Judson Holt, Denny Stripling, and Russ Turner, guys all from Spec Racer. Denny and Judson were running an NLS race. They invited me. And I went, I was like, okay, I'll take the permit class and we will go race. Well, there was no permit class before this race.
Oh,
So I emailed like everybody I could think to pull a string. I had a test driver buddy at Goodyear in Europe who had competed in the 24-hour. He's raced at Le Mans. He won GT Academy. I'm like, he's French. So there's like a little bit of an iffy thing with the Germans, but I'm like, he'll have enough, he'll have enough pull to like vouch for me. No. Then I found out later that like every F1 driver has to take this class, and I felt like a freaking moron for
oh
asking to
man.
get out of this class.
You're
So
like, no, no,
anyway,
don't you know who I am? They're like, no,
uh,
you don't know you or Max Verstappen. Get in the
right.
line.
Well, I found out later that one of the guys I met over there was he had done his class with Kamui Kobayashi, and I'm like, well, if Kamui had to take the class, I probably
Everyone.
shouldn't have asked for an exemption.
Yeah.
So
But I look,
anyway,
the racer in us understands because you're like, wow, I have this really awesome opportunity to go do this thing. I'm gonna do everything
yeah,
I can to try to make it happen.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went just close enough to probably never getting a license, where the guy just stopped responding to my emails. So anyway,
Okay. That probably
so you have to have a permit B, and then permit B combined with an FIA allows you to race in NLS. And so there's basically a power to weight threshold between permit B and permit A, and
Oh, okay.
essentially that is permit A is GT4, Porsche Cup, and GT3. Anything below a GT4 level is permit B. So you have to do a certain number of permit B races with no penalties, no crashes, no Germans yelling at you, don't get in trouble, and then you can apply for a permit A. So what's amazing about this whole thing is like I got the opportunity to run the SRO race last year, which was very fortunate to get. And like I was amazed how much that cost to get a license. Like I had an FIA license, and I remember like I found out pretty last minute that I was going to get to do it, and they're like, "Do you have an SRO license?" And I'm like, "Well, I have an FIA license." And they're like, "Well, you need to get an SRO license." And I'm like, "Well, surely that can't be that expensive." It was like $1,200. I'm like, "Okay, well, that was a little more expensive than I thought." Um, these German licenses, like they're like 60 euros. You just have to jump through a
that's
bunch
so
of hoops.
awesome.
They're not like financially difficult in the
Yeah.
scheme of
It's
things.
not like a
They're
gate
just
kept by
Ah,
finances, it's a gate kept by
yeah,
ability.
it's and so where this whole process came from, my understanding is after Jan Mardenborough's accident that was in the GT Academy movie where he wrecked at Flugplatz and a spectator died, they then locked down more of the access to the faster cars. Now, like I don't think anybody's blaming him for what happened; it wasn't his fault. But I think they just decided
they were
this
like,
is too
whoa,
open.
okay, yeah.
Somebody could just buy a seat and they're like an oil sheik or a mogul from somewhere, and now they're racing a GT3 car, and that's way too fast. So we got to lock this down somehow. And they came up with the most German process possible. So you have to take an online class, and the reality is it's actually super informative. Like it's pretty well done. There's like different
Mm.
modules, and it's about the safety cars there, the what the flags are, and the flags are different in some ways. The biggest difference is because the track is so long, you you don't have safety cars, you have slow zones. So they call them code 60 for 60 kph. A double yellow flag means 120, and then a single flag means no passing. So usually when you get to an accident, if there's boots on the ground to recover a car, it's a code 60. So you see a yellow, usually a double yellow is coming, and then a couple corner stations later, there's going to be a code 60. And that's what they really care about. So if you speed in an area where there's a person standing on the track, that is how you get the boot. And so, but there's other like rules differences because in certain sessions you can shortcut, like use the GP track to start a new lap. You can use, there's two entrances to pit lane because you've got the normal entrance on the front straight and then you've got the Grand Prix track entrance. So there's like little nuances of racing there. And they do a really good job explaining that in the rule set, and you have to pass a test. But you also, if you fail the test 3 times, you have to wait a month to take it again. So there's like a little bit of pressure of like
I mean,
not
how
screwing
hard
it
was the
up.
test? How like, Was it like super difficult? Like I feel like you would just kind of study it up. There's probably some
Well,
YouTube videos, then you're good to go, right?
it's not too bad, but there's like multiple choice questions and like some of it may be translational, but there's like 4 answers. One of them is ridiculous, so you know that one's not true. 2 are like obviously correct, and then 1 is like it didn't explicitly say that, but it kind of makes
Yeah.
sense, and,
I
like,
I had to
if
do
you
stuff
don't
like
get
that
all
with the
3,
NASA. Yeah.
it's wrong, and so,
Mm.
overall, like, I passed it, everybody I mean, like, it's I if you study enough and once you do the modules, you basically see all of the questions they asked, and then I have a PowerPoint with all of them, and then I used the PowerPoint when I took the test, so I passed the
Allegedly.
first time.
Allegedly.
So, I didn't wanna take any chances. So they've now reduced the requirement. Now you can get your permit B through the iRacing League, and you now have to do one permit B race before applying for an A, where before it had to be two. But you
Wait,
still,
you can apply
go ahead.
for a permit B by doing iRacing?
Yep, yep. So this was a
Oh,
Verstappen change. This happened after he went there in September. So there's a DNLS, digital NLS. So you have to compete in their official series. Um,
It's like an
and it,
actual official hopper on iRacing. They have like a couple races a year.
Yeah,
okay.
right. It's only
Yep.
4, like, they try to make them like it's not like a join the split and there's 100, tons of splits or whatever. Like so you can get your permit B now without ever having been there you still have to pass the online class. Um, so they have made it more attainable and um look, it's expensive. Like it's not, I mean, a cheap thing to go do. But as
Yeah.
far as like renting seats go, my current arrangement, like, fortunate, I don't the car I'm getting to drive is not something I can afford to stroke a check for, but, like, I've paid for a good bit of the kind of getting the license part. That was part of the agreement.
Yep.
Um, and it is, if you compare it to, like, buying a seat in WRL, you can get seats in NLS for cheaper than, like some GP2, GP1 seats
Oh,
in
wow.
WRL. Now, you get a lot less seat time. In WRL,
Sure.
you get a full Friday practice day, or you split it with your co-drivers, and you get an 8-hour race Saturday, 8-hour race on Sunday. NLS is a 3-hour practice on Friday. That's called the taxi session. So another thing that's like super crazy in German, and like I don't understand if maybe they don't have lawyers, but like the taxi session is meant so the lower level teams or less funded. Typically, the way that they pay for that session is people buy tickets to ride with the person in the car. And Tom, I know you've done a bunch of like the ride and drive type stuff. I've gotten to do a lot for Goodyear. Like I'm used to having a passenger. Like I've
Yep.
done it before. But like Judson, his first time at the Nürburgring, racing at the Nürburgring, they shoved some dude in his car, and this guy paid 500 euros to ride a lap with Judson. And they're looking at him like, you got a fancy suit and a helmet, like you clearly know what you're doing. And he's
He's the
like,
guy. Yeah.
he's like, this is my first lap. Like, why is this person in the car with me? And but that's something what keeps the price down. So for some teams, they keep the price down by they sell tickets and that pays for the practice session. So if I'm
Interesting.
paying out of it for my own dime, I'm like, put them in the passenger seat.
Damn. I
Let's
wonder if
go.
we could figure out how to
Um,
bring that to the US.
Dude,
yeah, and
seriously.
it's awesome because like one thing that so my wife Allie is coming to one of the next races. She's coming to the qualifier races, and like legitimately, she may be able to go for a lap with me in live practice
That would be
with
sick.
GT3 cars,
Dude.
with Max, with whoever, and she'll get to feel like what it really is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not like, hey, ride with me in a street car at a track day. Like, no, she's gonna go through Foxhole at 160 miles an hour, and I'm not gonna lift. Like,
I'm
and
kinda
and
Yeah.
you're
surprised
gonna
there's a
get the
passenger seat.
full experience. So there's aspects of it that are crazy, but it's also awesome because, uh, like financially, if you're a driver who, this is a big swing for financially, like you essentially get a free practice session. And then what you're paying
Yeah.
for is the race. So there's all the NLS races, for the most part, are a 1.5 hour. They call it qualifying practice, and you have each driver who's competing is supposed to turn a lap or two in that session. So it's meant for like if the three of us went and did a race together, like one
You
of
mean
us may
when?
get new tires when. Yeah, one of us may get new tires to go set the lap, and then the other two would get scrubs, and we'll go turn some laps in practice, and then the race is 4 hours. So if you compare it by seat time, it's a lot more expensive than WRL, but you're at the Nürburgring with like factory pros and everything in between. Like it's a really like it's a wild place to like because you're there with a lot of fans. Like that was the part that blew me away. I mean, it was like I've always raced in not in front of a lot of people. And then like I got to
Yeah.
do the two WRL race or SRO races, and there were more people. Like it was my first time like ever like signing an autograph like to some person who has no idea who I am, but they want me to sign the thing. And then like,
Yeah.
little kids wave at you and you think like I used to be the kid waving at the guy. So this is awesome. Like this
Yeah.
is really like I don't know how I got here. This is cool. And then the Nürburgring was like times 10. I mean, like the
Yeah.
first time I got to start a race and I drove like out because when you leave grid, you go around the Grand Prix track and then you shortcut, in the final corner of the Grand Prix track, and then you basically you have to drive like a mile an hour to get to grid because there's 10,000 people on the front straight. And like, dude, I straight up cried. Like it was like
Dude, that
I'm
sounds
like
so
I
cool.
need to keep my visor down so nobody is like, is
That's
he
so
is
cool.
he like
He's
is
super
he like okay
serious.
to run? I mean, it
Yeah.
was just like I had never seen that many people that like gave a crap about like what I was doing or a part of or whatever. And so it's that part of the series is like really fun because you get to even though you're not in the GT3 car that gets the coverage and competing against the factory pros, like you're still in the race. Like you're still there. There's
Yeah.
still a
You're
lot
still
of
part of the
people. Like the
show,
track
yeah.
is lined with people watching it. And so it feels very like big event. But anyway, that's the license process is yeah, it's one of those things. It's like a pain in the ass at first, but then now I just click renew and then I do the online class and then it's done.
Sure.
And so it's not a problem now.
Huh.
D
That's so okay. That helps a ton to picture what it was like to go through that. And I feel like in classic fashion, we've opened a can of worms like at the hour and a half mark. So we'll wrap it up. But my question is from that, like, does the does the bar come up when there's that much? Like, okay, so I have a hard time with we talked about this a lot recently actually with like the curriculum model for racing schools and the going through a process from like you start in this beginner group or this DE1 group and then you come up through versus and my complaint with that is that there's not a standard of acceptable behavior across all of them. It's like if you're in the novice, then you get to be kind of worse at some of this stuff, and then like as you get better at driving, you also have to be better at the other stuff. And I don't think that that's productive. I think it should just be like you have to meet these standards from the time you enter the racetrack. When it comes to
Yeah.
safety and awareness and whatever, did you notice at the Nürburgring with all of these extra like I have to go through all these things that everyone's on better behavior? Is the thing higher quality?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I didn't necessarily expect that. And I don't know how much is related to the restrictions or like the rules related to it. Some of it be me more like I mean the track just is more daunting, and so therefore like the consequences of your actions are literally right in front of your face, and you see it every race of somebody
Yeah.
like wadding a car up. And the drivers meetings for NLS, like they have story time and they take videos from the last race and they call people out and they use your onboard video and they will be like, don't do what this guy does. And it's not always picking on Americans. Like it's sometimes it's like I recognize that car, like that's a pro. And it'll be like, don't do what this guy's doing. But the other thing I like what they do about it is they don't just it's so easy when you have mixed class racing to always put all the blame all the time on the faster car. And in
Yeah.
WRL, I've driven GP3 and I've driven GTO. And I think having driven GP3, I hope makes me a friendlier GTO. Like, look, I'm still gonna try to get mine, but like, I also have learned that like there are ways that I could like ruin both of our laps or wait to pass and have a little patience and use the strength of my car And so the NLS, one thing I've noticed is they put also a big emphasis on the slower cars also behaving correctly. And they don't just go, look at this dumbass GT3 driver who was super aggressive who wrecked the slower class car. Like that, everybody knows that happens at times. But they'll
Yeah.
also show examples of like a driver competing for like the overall win and they get held up behind a slow class car that doesn't know the flag zone that they're in and they're going 60 kilometers an hour when they're not restricted, but there's a
Oh
single
man,
yellow and passing is restricted and there's a German GT3 driver literally exploding in the car and they will
can only
like be
imagine.
like, because you'll start the video going like, oh, what's the GT3 driver going to
Yeah,
do this time? And they're like, you see what this guy in the BMW 325 did? Don't do this. And so they put an
Yeah.
impetus on like both. And the other thing I've noticed, I do think there is an expectation of using the blinker to help dictate like what you're going to do, and that's
Mm.
used pretty effectively. So the general rule is you blink to where you're going. And so if somebody isn't using the blinker, then that basically indicates like, I'm gonna stay on the racing line, you need to pass me. Or it indicates that I have no idea you're behind me. It's kind of one
Yeah.
of the two. But
Sure.
it's more likely the second one. But when somebody's using the blinker, it like instantly like so if you have a where GT4 cars are 40 seconds a lap slower than the GT3 cars. But we are a minute plus faster than some of the cars. So there's like a massive range of speed. And we're really fast in a straight line, and the GT3s are insanely quick through the corners, like sometimes 20, 30 miles an hour faster than us, or 20, 30 Ks, sorry, in some of the fast corners from an aero point of view. Or maybe I just don't know how to go through the fast corners, but there's a big difference.
Or how
And
kilometers
so,
work.
yeah,
that's like
Go
that's
ahead.
like nothing in mile per
we
hours.
still, right, something. We still pass a lot of cars. And so if I'm like starting to get pretty aggressive, feel like, oh, this guy's gonna blow my lap up, and they put the blinker on, it like instantly takes the because I know they see me. And I know that they're gonna not, be an asshole. They're gonna help me. They're like, okay, hey, don't pass me here. Get through the corner, and I'm gonna stay right, and you can pass me to the left. And it like instantly takes away some of that like aggression that makes you make a bad decision. And so I think that's a part of it is people really do actually use the blinker like a lot in qualifying in the races. Like you see the blinker all the time. Now, where the
Yeah.
blinker gets dangerous is when you accidentally leave it on. That's a bad situation. And that has some
I bet that
cars, it's
happens a
hard
lot.
because they're like more street based and then the blinker stays on and you're like going, stop, turn off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it doesn't actually have a spot. It's like a
Yeah.
button more than
And then
anything.
it's bouncing
Yeah, and
between
then you're
one or
going
the other
left
way.
and
And that,
right, and
yeah,
it's
that part.
yeah.
Yeah. But in general, I have felt like the uh the driving standards, the kind of asshattery is less than I experienced in the two like SRO races I did. Some of it may also be longer distance, like people are a little more I think there is an element at the ring where it's you just need to complete your number of laps. There's like
Yeah,
people are
everyone's
trying to
trying to like meet the
survive a little
mark.
bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Damn, that makes me want to go there so
I
badly.
know,
Sorry, go
same.
ahead, DJ.
Well, I was gonna have a grinds my gears moment, and if
Okay.
like a bunch of HPDEs in the states, the blinker is used backwards than like everywhere else in the world,
I
and
I
it
know.
drives me crazy
I know.
because it's opposite of what like you would do on the street. So now it's
Yeah.
just this like you blink where you want them to go. That's not how an indicator works.
Right. I know.
Ugh.
And I because I've been at test tracks where it's like, if you want somebody to pass you, put the blinker onto that side. And I'm like, but but how about I just do what I want to do? Or tell them this is what I'm gonna do. Like I
Exactly.
control
Well,
myself.
think about it.
It's
Look, I want everyone to imagine your left hand is on the wheel and you have your fingers out to touch the blinker. It's left hand down is turning left, and then left hand up is turning right. Think about which way the blinker goes when you want to go right or left. It's literally the same. So you're telling me I need to go left hand down but blinker up if I
yeah,
want them to pass me on the right? That
it's
doesn't make any
backwards. Yeah,
sense.
I
It's
agree.
backwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never thought about this before, but now I'm triggered. The same way that when a shifter in a car comes with like the bump up and down for upshift and downshift,
And it's
but it's
backwards.
backwards.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's
what are we
backwards.
doing?
what are we doing?
Yeah,
Oh my
come on,
goodness.
come on. Yeah,
Oh,
100%.
Whatever engineers let that through. Damn,
Right. Fired.
yes,
fired.
exactly.
Well, we didn't even make it to driver coaching or some of the other notes. Dave, I sent him my outline for this, and he was like, "That's going to be like 5 hours." But either way, this
What-
was super enlightening. I had a blast doing this. What do you have going on this year? You're doing spec racers. You're doing how much Nürburgring? What else? Not one lap, right?
I
You're
have
gonna be there.
no, unfortunately not this year. I
Dang
want to
it.
come back. I got to find a way.
He went out
It's
on top,
so I
ladies and
have
gentlemen. He won
He
and
did. He's like,
disappeared.
it
yep,
was
sorry. Later,
it
everyone.
was not planned that way. It just worked out. So I have I'm doing with Judson and Denny and Russ, we're doing the Nürburgring 24-hour in May, and then we're doing all of the NLS races before the N24. So I'm going to Germany again next Wednesday. So NLS 3, a 4-hour race, and then it's the 2 qualifier races or the weekend after that. And one of those races goes into the dark, so that'll be the only time we get to drive in the dark before the big race. And then yeah, in May is the 24-hour, so it's May 16th and 17th, and then I think it's like 2 days of qualifying before. It's interesting with the schedules. They release the schedule like 3 days before the race, which you would think like I don't know. Some of it's different, like an SCCA race, we get the schedule like 2 months in advance,
Yeah,
and
it's like grid
they
life.
have the same schedule for every race, and you get it like 3 days before. So I actually don't know how many. I know what day I was told to fly there, so I have my
Gotcha.
flights booked. And then after the 24-hour, like I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing anything else with the Loopy Tortilla Motorsports with Judson's team. We may do a WRL race. So Judson and Denny are doing a full season in GT4 America. So I'll probably only drive in that if something bad happens to Denny. So I'm definitely not rooting for that. And then I am.
Did you
I'm
hear
not-
that,
I'm not-
podcast
sort of-
listeners? If something
What's up?
bad happens to Denny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they
He
kill the
plays
start?
hockey. Yeah, no, they did great. They did great. But yeah, he still plays hockey and he's in his 50s. And I'm like, dude, this is like, are you trying to get me back in SRO? Like, stop playing hockey. Like, I don't know what your deal is. Like, stop playing hockey. This is like the best year of your racing life.
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna do probably Barber Super Tour and then the runoffs is my plan for the Spec Racer. So I have a really busy, awesome Nürburgring spring, and then take a little break, and then I'll run the Spec Racer for the runoffs. That's my current plan.
Cool, man. That sounds like I'm pumped for you. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm very excited. Like it was, yeah. I mean, it was. The Nürburgring stuff started as like a once a year we get to go, kind of help me get there, and then it became, well, that's really awesome. And then Judson just basically was like, I think we're gonna do the 24. Come
That's
again?
cool.
Like,
All right.
Yeah.
okay.
Can I
I'm in.
add something to your calendar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Solo Nationals. Come on.
I would like to do it. I'm in.
Okay. All right. We got to find a car for Dave.
Okay.
Let's get him in Chris's Evora. I'm just gonna start whoring that car out, but only
What, you gonna
only
run it
for
in-
qualified people.
You gonna run it in XB? Like what a?
No, I'm gonna run it in XB.
Oh, you're
I'm
running
gonna
it in
run
XB.
XB pecs next.
What
but
class do I
can
run it in?
You can do SSM. You can do XP. You can whatever.
I
you
do.
want.
I
XA.
still follow Solo Live, and every year I'm like, we're gonna have to make the grid bigger. Like every year I'm like, where did this new one come from? Like there's a whole new line. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're saying in like the live timing thing.
yeah, in the box. I'm used to like what the box looked like, and then
Yeah.
it's like, is that like a whole new group? Like
Yep.
what?
Yep.
So I text people like, hey, what is STA? ST? I thought there was like X and yeah.
No,
so-
it's
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I want to do Solo Nationals.
okay. Sick. We'll try to make that happen. Definitely. And then we're gonna
Okay.
have to have you on the podcast again because all three of us could talk about coaching for like another hour and a half. So
That's
Okay,
true.
Sounds
Yep.
good. I'm down. Yeah, and
Well-
then when we go race at the ring.
oh, absolutely, yeah. Definitely. I don't know
like
who's
your
paying
energy.
for that, but we'll figure it out.
We gotta figure that
We
part
gotta
out.
sell enough
Yeah.
stickers. We'll sell enough stickers.
Yeah. Right. There you go.
All right. Well, Dave, I really appreciate you. I think you're so fun. I love catching up with you at every track we go to, and I think you're a huge positive force for motorsports in the like just energy that you bring and your efforts and stuff. But now comes the hard part. After the compliments, you have to do the outro for the
Oh, I have to do
podcast.
the
Do you remember how
outro?
that goes? Yeah.
No.
No. Okay.
All right.
All right.
DJ,
Text me.
go
I'll
ahead.
I'll cut you through it. All right. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not because I kind of broke this a little bit. Can you can
no,
you
no,
hear the
no.
music?
I remember part of it.
All right.
I remember that I love your hair part. I got that part.
Love your hair. Hope you win.
I want you to win, and I love your hair. Is
No.
that?
I love your hair.
No.
I hope you win.
I hope you win. I was close.
Is close good enough, Dave? Come on. All right. All right. You say it, there's the music plays, and then there's a break,
Okay.
and then that's when you say it. I'm gonna play the music once, you're gonna hear the break. So right now it's playing. There'll be a break. That's when you say I love your hair and I hope you win. And you say win right when the happens. And then it'll be the outro. Okay, you ready? Did you
Okay.
hear any
All right,
of that
let's do
while
it.
I was talking?
Yeah.
Okay, sick. All right, Dave, take us out of the podcast. Thank you so much for being on. Oh,
It's
there's
not
no
playing
music.
now.
There's music in here. Just go, Dave. Oh, we screwed it up. I don't know why you can't hear it.
You have your
I
Chris
love
off.
your
You
hair, and
can't
I
hear
hope
it.
you win.
Good enough.